1 Kings chapter 12. Rehoboam journeyed to Shechem, where all Israel had gathered to proclaim him as king. Meanwhile, Jeroboam, who had been living in Egypt, received word of this development. He had fled from King Solomon's presence and resided in Egypt. When summoned, Jeroboam and the assembly of Israel approached Rehoboam, presenting their plea. "Your father made our burden heavy. Make it lighter for us, and we will serve you." Rehoboam requested 3 days to consider their request, and the people agreed. He consulted with the elders who had served his father Solomon, and asked for their advice on how to respond to the people's appeal. The elders advised Rehoboam to serve the people and speak kind words to them, ensuring their loyalty. Yet he rejected this counsel and turned to his contemporaries, friends he had grown up with, for advice. They recommended a confrontational approach. "Tell them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist." Furthermore, they suggested he declare his intent to increase their burdens, asserting that while Solomon disciplined them with whips, he would discipline them with scorpions. On the 3rd day, Jeroboam and the people returned as Rehoboam had directed. However, he disregarded the elders' advice and responded harshly, echoing the words of his peers. He claimed his father's yoke was heavy, but his would be heavier. Solomon had disciplined with whips, while he would use scorpions. This decision was in accordance with the Lord's plan, spoken by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam. When the people saw Rehoboam's hardened stance, they rebuked him, stating they had no share in David's lineage or inheritance in Jesse's son. They dispersed to their tents, leaving Rehoboam's rule hanging by a thread. Nevertheless, those from the tribes dwelling in Judah remained under Rehoboam's reign. Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was in charge of tribute, to pacify the revolting Israelites. However, they stoned Adoram, leading Rehoboam to hastily flee to Jerusalem. This marked the beginning of the rebellion against the house of David, which persisted. When news of Jeroboam's return reached the people, they assembled and appointed him as king over all Israel, except for the tribe of Judah, loyal to the house of David. Upon Rehoboam's return to Jerusalem, he rallied an army of 180,000 chosen warriors from the tribes of Judah and Benjamin to reclaim control over the rebellious Israelites. God intervened, sending a message through Shemaiah, a man of God, to Rehoboam and his forces. The message instructed them not to fight against their fellow Israelites, as this division was part of God's plan. Heeding the divine directive, Rehoboam's forces retreated as commanded by the word of the Lord. Jeroboam fortified Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim and later built Penuel. Jeroboam feared that if the people went to Jerusalem to offer sacrifices, their loyalty might shift back to Rehoboam. To prevent this, he devised a plan. He crafted 2 golden calves and declared, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." 1 calf was placed in Bethel, and the other in Dan. This act of idolatry led the people to sin, as they worshipped the calves, and Jeroboam's actions became a transgression. He established high places and appointed unqualified individuals as priests, disregarding the Levites. Furthermore, Jeroboam established a feast on the 15th day of the 8th month, similar to Judah's feast, and offered sacrifices to the calves. He even offered sacrifices on an altar he had constructed in Bethel, disregarding the divinely appointed times and methods of worship. Jeroboam's actions were of his own invention, not guided by God's law. Despite this divergence from proper worship, Jeroboam maintained a feast in Bethel, continuing his offerings and incense offerings.